Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Why We Hate TV News. I'm your host, Nash Thompson. We have a very special show in store for you today. Later on, we will be joined by special guests Rob Harris and Noah Cooper from Crim 2 News. First off, just right off the bat, I want to tell what the show is about a little bit. We are looking at why millennials, my generation, doesn't really tune in to the local news or the national news much anymore. And we are going to be having some professionals just talk to us about that, like Rob and Noah. But first, we're going to be chatting with our very own GUTV student and floor director for this show, Adrian Anderson. Adrian, come on down, buddy. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
Even though you kind of had to be for the show, but...
That's what I'm here for.
What's it like really being a broadcasting major?
Being a broadcasting major is definitely unique in and of itself because it's a really comfortable environment to learn all of the techniques that we use pretty much every day in class. We learn every single position so that, if something happens or we need to make a sudden change, that we can all kind of be on the same board. And when it comes down to showtime, just about whatever you're doing in life, it can be really stressful, and it's really a comforting thing to know that your entire team knows what they're doing and they got your back. So being a broadcasting major, it's really comfortable learning new topics.
So since you're a broadcasting major and I'm a broadcasting major myself, obviously getting into an industry where it's not dying but evolving into something that we haven't really seen before. Does that worry you at all, or what are your thoughts on that?
I definitely would agree that our industry's not dying. We really have to kind of focus in on what's actually going on. So we have to look at where our viewers are and where the money is. So getting those two things in the same place, that's the challenge that we're really facing today, because we're looking at all of the people around our age and the youth in general. They're wanting it on their handhelds, all the media platforms, and that's just not where the money is. So we really have to just kind of find a way to make it more engaging at where we have the actual show.
Yeah, of course. Since obviously we're both millennials, how do you get most of your news? On what device do you use?
I would use my phone, computer, mostly my phone, definitely. A lot of platforms, Facebook and Twitter for sure. Through this class, I would say I've definitely, kind of focused more on following those news programs, just because in the nature of the business, you really have to know the techniques that people are using, how they get popularity, and you gotta know what's going on.
Plus, we kind of have to.
Exactly, part of the grade, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So which one is your favorite to get your news off of?
Well, I would have to go with Crim. It's only respectable. They have a lot of really good content, and they're always kind of consistent with what they're posting, so you're never really left wondering what are they up to, is something going on, because they're always pushing out relevant content. So Crim 2 News really does a great job with engaging with their community and their audience in general.
I think you're just kind of sucking up to Crim 2 since we have some people here.
Gotta make our guests happy.
Yeah,
at the same point.
I would definitely agree with that. So obviously, since you get yours off of Crim 2, what do you use for more of national news, since Crim 2 is more local?
It really depends on the news. There have been conversations out there, that channel, it's all biased information. And really, you just kind of gotta look at, all the CNN, all kind of platforms of national news. And then if there's something really big going on, you gotta do your own research. So, when it comes to national and local news, if there's something that you're really focusing on and you're, kind of trying to establish that credibility, you gotta do your own research.
So do you think that the phenomenon of fake news that has really sprouted up within the past year has really impacted our generation and why we aren't tuning into necessarily the traditional TV news?
I would say for people around our generation have generally just become uninterested, and they only really want to know the fashion or the hip new trends. They don't really want to pay attention to the news unless something negative's going on. I say the title of fake news definitely plays into it, and it's kind of an excuse to not watch the news, because definitely before, up until halfway through high school, I wouldn't want to watch the news at all. And so I would use the same, a lot of excuses that we hear today. But as far as fake news goes, I would say it's just one of those roads that people can take to just kind of avoid it.
Yeah. Also, for you and I, since we're in college and we're busy all the time, it's hard to manage your time between everything else that you have going on, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say because TV stations, they have regular times that they do shows. They do a really good job of, having stuff up on their website. So if you missed a show, you can always go back to it. But I really don't think, people are incorporating the importance of knowing what's going around into their environment into any of their free time.
How much do you think people actually go back and watch it, though? I mean, for our age, I never see anybody watching news, honestly.
I mean, there might be a few people here and there, but I wouldn't say that people are actually taking time out of their daily schedule to go out and focus on what's going on and what's important.
So obviously, the daily schedule is different for everybody, but for you personally, how much time do you think you spend actually taking in the news?
Taking in the news, I would say as far as live TV, not that much. But I mean, because of what they're going through, a lot of their stuff is online. It's on Twitter, it's on Facebook. So I'll get those notifications throughout the day. So I feel more comfortable not necessarily needing to go home at a time watching TV or going on a website and watching it back, because all the really important stuff you'll get one way or another.
Well, I mean, hey, that makes total sense to me. I mean, I guess the big thing that I would have to say for the television news is just that it's really changing. I think a lot of people don't know how exactly to take it in now, or what way is the best way to take it in. And I think that we're going to have a hard time of trying to figure that out. But that'll be our job, right?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Adrian. I really appreciate it. After a quick break, special guests Rob Harris and Noah Cooper from Crim 2 News will be sitting down to talk to me about the television news industry and the problems that they face today. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to Why We Hate TV News. I'm your host, Nash Thompson, and I am now joined by special guests Rob Harris and Noah Cooper from Crim 2. They're here to talk with me about the broadcast news industry and what they experience in their careers at Crim 2. So, Rob, if you wouldn't mind starting right off the bat, what exactly do you do for Crim 2?
So my official title is multi-skilled journalist. That's the third title I've had, by the way. They change it every probably 2 years or so, and it's a distinction without a difference. But essentially it means that I'm a reporter who also has to do kind of everything. Wow. So I have to be shooting my own stories, editing my own stories, and then being in front of the camera as well.
Wow, so you're a man of many talents.
Well, I'm a man of many actions. I'll let someone else judge if I'm a man of many talents, but...
Well, Noah, if you wouldn't mind expanding on your role a little bit at Crim 2.
Yeah, I'm the executive news director at Crim 2 News, which means I'm in charge of the entire newsroom and all the content that we put on all platforms.
Wow. Yeah. So all platforms meaning TV and social media?
And on all digital platforms, yeah.
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything.
Which one is your most popular?
Facebook, by far. It's our biggest audience.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you guys use Facebook Live a lot to tap into?
Yes. all day, every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, our digital team, who's not here, they have it timed out, so they know that there's going to be some sort of either a live video or non-live too. But usually, I think every half hour there's going to be some sort of video content on our Facebook. It's one of those tight ropes you walk, because you want it to be frequent enough that people know to come to you, but not so frequent that they unfollow you.
Yeah.
Because we all know we've unfollowed those pages that just bombard you and overwhelm you too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have some friends that I unfollow, obviously, because they post way too much stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, guys, I have some clips for us to watch, actually, from students here on campus on why they don't take in the news much anymore. So if you guys would like to watch some clips here.
Cool.
I believe the news should be an unbiased source of information, and it's becoming more often nowadays that all of the information we're getting is biased in some direction.
Well, I don't really know how to watch it or have access to it. Is there a link? Is there a website that I go on? I just don't know how to get to it.
Because it's just really negative, and I just always feel like there's bad energy that comes from it.
I don't watch TV news because I usually don't have the time here at college. If I'm gonna read the news, I usually go on my phone and read news stories, but I just don't watch TV here. So.
Because I don't have enough time and I don't really care.
Wow, yeah. So
Can't beat that honesty.
yeah, at least they're all honest. So first impressions off the bat, what do you guys think of those?
I think a lot of them have a lot of valid points. The one that you're hearing all over the place right now is fake news, media's biased.
Yeah.
I guess my response to that one in particular is people use the term the media, and if you ever hear the term the media, it's probably because that person has some sort of an agenda in which they want you to lump them all together. Just like all police officers are not a monolith, all teachers are not a monolith, the media is not a monolith. You know, I have no idea what KXLY is going to be reporting today or KHQ, other than I might be able to make some bets based on huge things that are happening. But people kind of talk like we're the Frankenstein monster that's coordinating with each other to ruin the world. And so I guess that's the one criticism I would take issue with. Everything else I think is completely valid.
Wow.
Agreed,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Noah.
Well, especially I think one of the things that stood out for me was the person that says it's just so negative. It's just all that negative energy.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason people don't trust the media is because if someone came up on your doorstep every single day, knocked on your door, and you opened it up and they told you about all the horrible things that were going on for the next 20 minutes, you would never invite that person into your house. And that's what TV news became over time, and still, many ways, is what it is. So you have to get away from that perception and do some things that are relevant to people's lives and show them the solutions, the good things that are going on in the community, along with the problems that need to be fixed. It has to be a balance. And that, to me, was one of the things that really stood out there.
And I would emphasize problems that need to be fixed. I think that should be the driver of the content, because some negative things we do need to cover. But there are sometimes I think that the media just covers problems just because it makes for pretty television. You know, there are flames in that video. Well, does it really impact our viewers? Can they really do anything about it? Are they going to be thinking about it tomorrow? No. If it's a problem that people need to be aware of and they can make some sort of change about, then I think it should go on the air. But just because it's happening now, I don't think that's enough of a criteria.
Agreed. But transparency is a huge
Yeah.
part of battling the perception that you saw, I think, in that video, because you heard in there the underlying tenet of these people have an agenda. These people are all together. There's this conspiracy. None of us have time to get together and have a conspiracy.
Have a big
We're
tea
way
party.
too busy to do any of this. I always tell people like that on the phone. It's like, I'd love to put my agenda on television, but I don't have time to because I'm so busy trying to actually do stuff that's relevant. But one of the key parts of that is if we can show transparent process of how we gather news and how we do our storytelling, the trust that will then come back to certain key journalism portals where you get your information, whether it be TV news, websites, app, whatever it is. If you can trust those places because they're showing you a transparent side of the business, that's the way, the entry back into people's trust.
Totally. And I would go off that and back to my original comment about dishonest reporters. I think there are dishonest reporters, and when you find one, call him or her out. but don't call out the media when you stumble upon that person.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's the big distinction is view the individual, hold them accountable just as we're holding other people accountable. And then our job is to, like you said, earn back the trust that I think we don't have at the moment.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So what exactly are you guys doing at Crim 2 to show the transparency that is vital to really making this industry like come back to life?
Well, one of the things that I really like to talk about is this new, it's called a franchise or a segment that we do pretty consistently called Verify, where we take something that's already out there. It could be something that a politician has said or a rumor that's going out there on social media. And we look at that's already out there, that you're already talking about or someone's already put out there, and then verify it. And we show you our sources up front. We say, this is what a politician said. We're going to examine that. Here's how we're going to examine it. Here are the 3 to 4 sources that we used, and this is what we found. And we verify that claim, whether it's true or not. Then we say it's verified or it's false at the end of this. And then we invite people to say, if you wanted us to consider some other sources, please send those to us. You got something else you want to verify? Please send those stories to us. And we're starting to see that pick up. I mean, just in the last 24 hours, we've had like 4 different people ask us to verify things as we start to get this segment rolling. It's a transparent way of storytelling to disprove or prove things that are out there. So that's one of the things that we're doing specifically at Crim.
And just a new approach to telling the story, because I think one of my favorite ones was someone was claiming, I guess, that a guy got HIV from eating a banana, and enough people believed it that it was going somewhat viral on the web, so we verified it. Now you could do that with file footage of bananas at Safeway and cut to a full screen of statistics with bullet points, or you can do it taking the viewer through the process and taking them behind the scenes and showing them, the process, your honest reactions along the way. And I think paradoxically, or surprisingly, I think the way to counteract this claim of inauthenticity is to be truly authentic. Rather than trying to remove yourself more to appear third party, I think you just invite the viewer in, warts and all, and show everything. It's like you're not airbrushing this out for the final newscast.
And I think one of the things that we've also had success with too is taking people literally along with us. So we've had some success, like during the election process. There was a former Marine who had a international student living with him at the time that had applied to vote while they were here for an absentee ballot. That person had since moved back to Thailand, but they still got the absentee ballot. Clear case of potential voter fraud, right?
Yeah.
Here's a ballot that's being sent out. This person isn't there to have it. Anybody could have picked up that ballot and voted with it and sent it in. So he reached out to us and said, how does this work? How could this be stopped? So we literally took him down to the elections office and we had him ask those questions of the auditor down at the courthouse to say, how can I be sure that this is not going to be counted if someone would have gotten this ballot in the wrong hands? Those kinds of stories, literally taking the people that are contacting us, asking for information to be verified, and then taking them along with us, literally throwing them in a news car and driving them to the place, has worked out very, very well for us.
Wow, okay. So how often are you guys doing verified now exactly?
It depends on whenever they come up, because it's based on something that people are already talking about and that we think there might be some sort of a misunderstanding or false information out there about. But I would say there's been a few each week since it launched, at least. So
you're starting to see it in most newscasts. By the end of the month, you'll see it in almost every newscast, because that's how it'll pick up steam. That's what we're seeing the response with.
So when did you guys launch Verify exactly?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it had been around in sort of different forms, but I think Tegna, and one of the reasons I chose this company is because they do pilots and they just try new things to try and innovate content. And so Verify was a pilot, and one of the things you do in a pilot is you see what works, what doesn't work, and you learn just as much from what doesn't work and what does work. And so it kind of evolves into what it has become. Yeah. So I think the term Verify has been around for probably a year or something, but the thing that I think is going to stick around for a while is probably new.
The current form is it's very clear cut, it's very focused, and it's easy for the viewer to digest. So we're going to keep that around in its form for quite some time.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back from our break, our crew here at GUTV has prepared some questions for Rob and Noah. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for more on Why We Hate the TV News. Welcome back to Why We Hate TV News. I'm your host, Nash Thompson. And for our final segment, we will be looking at some questions from our awesome bowl of questions that students have created for you guys to answer.
Ominous.
So I will just straight up pull the first one. I don't even know what these say, by the way, so who knows where this is going in all honesty. All right, what is the most challenging part of your job? Rob, if you want to go first.
Time. You know, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many hours in a work shift. And so I think you'll have a lot of different story ideas that come through your door that you think you want to delve into, and you want to delve into really. Yeah. Some stories that could be a full 30-minute show, but I have about 2 minutes on the air to work with it, and I have a few hours to get it done. So you just have to try and make the best content you can with limited resources, mostly with time, but also with manpower and other resource limitations too.
Yeah, of course. Noah?
I would say it's trying to create change to make news relevant again.
Yeah.
Everyone's using the 1980s style of newscast across the country in 95% of the newsrooms. There are a few newsrooms like Krem that are trying to change what a newscast looks like, so it's a show with news and not a traditional horrible 1980s style newscast that almost everybody does. So trying to do that while still keep product on the air and do 7.5 hours of news every day is extremely challenging, because there's a paint by numbers system to get news on the air, and trying to change that to actually create meaningful content that people like you and others at GUTV might watch is extremely challenging.
And those challenges go together, because the paint by number system is efficient. You get a lot done quicker if you do it in the way where the machine's already created to crank this out every 20 minutes. But that's the problem, is you have to at some point put your foot down and say, we're going to do it right, even if it takes more time, and even if we get less content in, it's going to be content that matters.
Yeah.
But it's a tough thing to fix in the moment, that's for sure.
So speaking of content, how does telling the full story get in the way of being able to be the first news station to report on something?
By definition. I think that's the thing is, and most news stations put the emphasis on being first. That is their ultimate goal. So you go and you hit power on the TVU backpack and you report what you're seeing. And that's it. I mean, to be fully transparent, that's what we do. Because you want people to know what's going on, even if you don't know the facts. You don't say anything false, but you just go off of based what you can see. That still takes time, though. So for every second that I'm going live, reporting what I see, I cannot be making calls or walking over and asking a witness what they saw. So yeah, I mean, you end up getting the full story, but in the moment, you're having to weigh these two options and try and do both. And it is tough.
It is, and there's breaking news, which is kind of the scenario he's describing, versus like document-based reporting and some other things where you really do have to take the time. And we tell people like Rob at Start on his first day at Krem, we say, I'd rather be dead last than first. And make sure if we're dead last, and making sure we're right with something versus being first and wrong. So we have that discussion on your very first day at Krem. So that's important to us.
That makes complete sense to me. So this one is specifically for you, Noah. How do you see the business side of TV news changing in the next 5 or 10 years?
It's going to get away from paint by numbers, and you have to be able to adapt to get people to watch again. There's a reason you don't watch TV news. And so you have all these stations doing TV news the same way, so you have to change and adapt to get you, and then eventually, you know, your spouse and then your kids to watch. And if we're not adapting, which we haven't done at all for 40 years, it's not going to be around. So you'll start to see 4 stations go down to 3, go down to 2, and eventually platforms like Hulu and other places that only need to choose 1 or 2 stations to include in their bundle, they're only going to choose 1 or 2 stations, and so 3 to 4 stations go away, and then you see a 1 to 2 station model start to pop up.
That's kind of scary, thinking of that. So, I mean, that's what you think is going to happen. What do you want to see happen, I guess?
That needs to happen. It's evolution. It's like Darwinism.
It's exactly
you have to change it.
And I would add into that I think the reason that TV news stayed so stale for so long is because it didn't have competition. For most of that time period, you had the 3 networks, and they could do whatever they want because that's all that they were offered. Now, people are offered a different alternative. I don't think it's always the best alternative, but there are many out there. You can go to a YouTube channel, and if the YouTube channel has enough funding, it could look just like our newscast. And that's not bad. It's bad if it's exploited, but competition is good. I think that we needed competition well before we got it.
Wow, okay. So since I had one for Noah, now I have one for you, Rob.
Okay.
Being a GU alum,
Yes.
What makes the Gonzaga broadcasting program so unique?
The fact that Professor Dan fully invests into the cura personalis, care of the whole person, learn all different aspects of a well-rounded experience. I know that, I was in choir. I never did music until college. My mom forced me to go out because she'd heard me sing in the shower. And she said, "You're going to do this." But my senior year, choir interfered with advanced TV. And I went to Dan and said, "Is there a way that I can make this work?" And he said, "No, duh, we're going to make this work." He wants you to have as many different experiences, and I'm a better reporter because of it. And not just music. I mean, I take philosophy and political science and science and whatever, name it. We have a pretty big core curriculum. And I am equipped with at least some baseline knowledge when I go into whatever story I'm going to do. And people trust you more if you can go onto the scene and at least somewhat sound like you know what you're talking about. You're crafting questions that seem somewhat educated rather than talk a little bit about what just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to get better answers, and people are going to trust you more if you have that baseline knowledge.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know everyone here appreciates it. That's all the time we have for today. Of course, special shout out to the Crim 2 family for coordinating with us for everything. And of course, a special shout out to our floor director, Adrian, for chatting with me as well. Thanks for tuning in to Why We Hate TV News. But this is not the end of our spring season of GUTV. Next week on Wednesday, May 10th, the final show, Wednesday Not Live, our sketch comedy show created by the advanced class, will drop at 5 p.m. on our Facebook and YouTube pages. Make sure to subscribe and like both pages to see behind the scenes footage and keep up to date on all things GUTV. I'm Nash Thompson, and go Zags.